if I could just wave a magic wand, I would love to be able to keep track of tasks, have an agenda view of today, tomorrow, on down through the weeks. I would love to have a calendar view of my tasks laid out so that I could see a month or a week or a day at a time blocking, time recording, seeing how long I'm spending on a task so I know how much to charge a client or to get clear on how long things are actually taking me. I would also love to use the Pomodoro technique, but you know what? That would require so many different programs and it would just be too difficult. But I would love if it were just one program, maybe one plugin that could handle all that. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. This is the single greatest plugin I've ever found for Obsidian. If you do project management, time management stuff, Pomodoro stuff, this is all in one. Like, I can't believe that this is all in the same plugin. So I'm really excited to share this with you and show you how it works. And if you are new around here, hi, my name is Jonathan Pritchard. I've got Project 720, which helps creators like you be more productive, more effective, charge more for spending less time on what it is you like to do. But anyway, let's get into showing you what this thing is all about. Here's our trusty YouTube vault, and we are going to install task notes right there. Make sure we install it, then enable it, and options. We're going to look at the options, go through that because I can't show you how it's set up before setting it up. So here we go. I like that the default task folder is task notes/tasks. That way it'll all live in the same place. And also I do want archived tasks to live in its own archive folder. So that way when I'm done with a task, I know where it's going to live and it just keeps them separate and tidy. And then how is the plugin going to know that this file is a task? Well, we'll identify it by using a tag. A property, I don't really like, just tag is simpler. Task tag. This is the tag that the plugin's going to look for to know that it should treat this file as a to-do, basically. If you've got other plugins like the Tasks plugin or anything else that filters by task and you've already set it up to be task, well, you could do this one, task note, and do that kind of thing, but I'm just leaving it as task here because I'm not using any other task manager after finding this plugin. So that's it. Excluded folders, what templates? I do not want the templates folder to be visible to this plugin because when I complete a to-do, I don't want that to affect the template that I'm using because then the template will show up as a completed task, which will put it out of view, that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that nothing I do in the templates is going to be affected by what I'm doing in this plugin. So single click, I want it to edit the task. Double click is to open the note. So I like it that way. Task properties. I don't like having a task that's not part of my process. So I'm actually going to get rid of the none and this open. Instead, I want it to be to do and I will label it to do. And if it needs doing, it needs to show up as red. If it's in progress, I actually want it to be doing instead of in progress. And this one we will show up as yellow. And then done, it's all green, all good. But I also want to add an extra status, which is archived and archived. So it'll be complete and archived, and we'll just make that black there. So that's that. Priorities, I'm just going to leave it high, normal, and low, and none priority, which is kind of goofy, but I'll leave it there. All of these, I am not going to touch them because if you touch them, it's going to be a whole thing. So That's why I'm just leaving this the way that it is. I don't have any extra fields that I want to add. This is going to be long enough as it is. We don't need to get into that super complicated thing. So defaults and templates. The default status of every task is something that I need to do. I'm not going to really create a task that's already done or in progress. So I'm just going to create it as to do. Default priority is normal. The contexts, like, is this a home task or is this to do with work? This is how I think about projects. So I'm working with so many different clients and so many different projects and so many channels and all that kind of thing that if I add one that gets added to every single new task, I'm going to wind up deleting it more often than it's going to save me time from having to add it to everything. So you might have it to be where you're working on one thing all the time, so you don't want to have to hand add it every time. That's why you would add this as the default context. Another detail is do not add the at home here if you're talking about home, because the plugin adds the at later. So it would show up as at home. So don't do that. I found that out the hard way. So it would just be home, work, whatever. But I'm leaving those empty as well as the default tags. I'm going to tag them. Plus it remembers which tags you've used already. So you just select it from a drop down. Totally cool, super easy. The projects, it's just the parent file. That's it. So there's not some big projects plugin or anything. It's kind of like, which file does this task connect to? That's the project. So again, no default projects. That's it. Use parent note as project during instant conversion. So if you've got a click button list item and then you convert it to a task, it'll just treat that note as, oh, this is what it's connected to, which I actually like. So we'll enable that. Default recurrence. I'm not going to default to ongoing recurring tasks. Most of my tasks are one and done kind of thing, so no default there. Default due date, I'm going to set what day it's going to need to be due. And default scheduled date, well, most of my tasks I'm planning for the future, so I'm not going to have time to work on them today or tomorrow. So I don't want a scheduled date because this is the due date, DUE date, the date that it needs to get turned in to the client. But the scheduled date is the DO date, the day you're going to work on it to do this. So that's a powerful distinction between these two. Default reminders, I actually don't want a body template because I've got so many different types of tasks. And there's going to be so many different kinds of information that I'm storing in the body of the note that's getting treated as a to-do item that I don't actually have a template that's going to work for all of them. So I'm leaving that empty as well. Appearance, I'm just going to leave this stock because these are the ones that I care about. I don't really need any of these other things to show up on the card view. Projects, contexts, and tags, I do want to see those. I do want to use the to-do title as the file title, so we'll leave that there. I do like 24-hour. The default calendar view, I don't want month. I actually want the week view to be the default, and the first day of the week is Sunday to me. It goofs me up when it's Monday. I do want week numbers. Everything else I want there. Auto detect is there. Show scheduled tasks, due dates when scheduled, show time entries. Yep. Because that will help me when I'm doing time logging to keep track of that. And then I like 15-minute increments on the calendar, start time and end time. That's cool. Show tracked tasks in status bar. This is phenomenally useful, which we'll see. But basically, when you do track your time and it's logging how much time you're spending on a task, it'll show up in the taskbar, which is super cool. And then The chevron over on the right, yep. Show expandable subtasks, yep. And all of this I'm leaving alone, as well as the features. All these are going to be the default that I want. I'm just going to leave it that way, except the sound volume of the alert, I'm turning up to 100. So that way the beep when the Pomodoro is done isn't going to get lost if I'm playing music or something. It'll just come through at 100% volume. Enable notifications from the system instead of in-app, because I'm going to set the timer that I'm going to go to somewhere else like graphic design or whatever, work on a website. And then if it's in app, well, then I'm not in Obsidian, I'm in Chrome or something, so I will miss the notification. So I want it at system level. And then I do want to hide completed tasks from overdue, because if I did it and it's not so that's cool, leave that there. I want my notes to be indexed, even if they're to-do items. So I'm going to leave that unclicked. And that's pretty much it. Time blocking, I do want to enable time blocking like that. So that way we can just drag time on the calendar, and that's cool. And integrations, enable bases integrations. If you're going to use bases to further filter stuff out, but this is super advanced stuff. That's kind of paid course level details, as well as the calendars and HTTP and webhooks. I'm not using any of that. So that's the setup. Now it's actually good to use it. So what are we going to do? Do we need to create a bases? What do we need to do? Nope. No bases, nothing. Let's open up the command palette and then go to task notes. And here's everything that you can do. I did set up a shortcut here, task, new task, which actually, let's just go into hotkeys here and new task, create new task. I just assigned it. So it was blank, hit that Command-Shift-T, because that's my go-to make a task hotkey. And then that's it. So now when I hit Command-Shift-T, it brings up a task. But before we look at this is what I want to show us. Refresh cache is when you make a change and then you don't see it. It's not broken. It's just taking a little bit to think. You can force refresh how it's thinking about stuff, and then that's the thing you're going to do. Open tasks view. Sure, let's do that. This is what it looks like. Nothing to see here. And then create new task, agenda view. That one is super handy. Kanban board. Yes, so we'll do the agenda view and then Kanban, and then something else. Today's note, open Pomodoro timer. We'll do that in a little bit. Mini calendar view isn't too handy. I don't like it. But this one, advanced calendar view, is awesome. We set it to be a default of a week, so here it is. And I'm currently recording this at about 2 o'clock. So there it is. And then task notes. Open advanced. Yep. Pause, resume Pomodoro. Export all tasks as a calendar file. Open task and project statistics to see how much you've completed, right? Like, this is pretty darn cool, man. Like, oh my goodness. If you like keeping track of stuff, this is like catnip for us, which is awesome. Okay. So these are all the different kind of views that we can see. So then how about we create a task, which is record this video. So that's going to be the title, but there's also a shorthand that you can have in here. So let's say this is my YouTube context, and then we'll say it's due Friday, and you see that it automatically knows what date Friday is. That's the natural language kind of thing. And then we'll say it is 4 hours. So it's estimating that it'll be 240 minutes worth. And that's it. And say it's high priority. So as you can see, you can put all this in one line, but then it's going to be divided up in the proper way for the task. Or if you want, you can expand and then outline the title, set the DUE date there. You can set what day you're going to work on it there, along with the time, what priority it is, or the status: to do, doing, done. The priority here, is it recurring? Do you want a reminder? It's all in here. So add project. I don't usually add a project for this kind of thing, but the context is the place where you add that. And then I could say this channel, personal channel, or my RPG channel, whatever. So this is how I divide it up between projects and clients, and then which sub project I'm working on is the tag. And there it is. So if I hit save, it automatically puts this here, and then the agenda shows up. Okay, on Friday, it's due. But check this out. What if I wanted to work on it tomorrow and save? Well, it's showing up in two places, because on Wednesday I have to work on it, and Friday it's due. So that confused me why it was showing up twice, but it's because it's showing every instance of when this task is on my calendar, which is kind of cool. And on my Kanban board, I can drag it to doing, and then you can see this color changed. Or we can click there and then go back to Kanban, and look at that, it's done, which is neat. So you can change the state or the status of this task, and then it changes in different views of where it is, right? Now, it shows up as done, but maybe we're doing it and we save it, and it says record this video. Well, instead of it just being all day, let's drag it to 1 o'clock, and it's 4 hours worth, so here's the time block. Or if I just click and drag, it'll create a task here. If I hold down Command and drag, it'll create a task as well. There's a way that I can't remember. There it is. So create time block. So I don't know why you would want to create a time block that isn't connected to a task that's part of your project or contexts, but you can do that here, and it's all in here. Create time block. So now you can see that this is blocked off. I don't really use this, but maybe this will be handy for you if you would like. But in the Kanban view, in the agenda view, you can see everything, but check this out. Okay, so this is the YouTube project, and maybe I want to add something like this. Yeah, pick up kids from school every weekday at 3 p.m. Okay, and we'll say this one is personal context, and save. So this is where you might want to force refresh the cache, because filters, oh no, there we go. So there it's visible. So I'm seeing all views here, and in my agenda, it'll be pick up the kids from school, refresh the calendars, right? So what if I only wanted to see my YouTube stuff? So I would go to filters, add filter, and then my contexts is what I think of as projects. So I don't actually use projects, I just use contexts, and then say, okay, YouTube is the one that I want. So now the personal stuff isn't visible, it's just my YouTube stuff is visible. And then from this, I can say, you know what, let me save this as the YouTube view. And then let's refresh the cache, because instead of YouTube, I want it to be personal, and then save this as personal. Now I can switch between my YouTube tasks and my personal tasks, which is super neat. But check this out. If I click, but then click the same one again, it does this wacky thing where it just dumps them into all. And I'm like, oh no. So it took me a long time to figure out how to get out of this. So it's sort group by status. Oh, okay, there we go. But when you do that, it goes into goofy, like alphabetical order. So to do is there, archived is going to be way over here. And now we're back to the right sequence. So this I would actually save as all tasks. There we go. So now I can go from YouTube to personal to all tasks, and that's how I organize things. Now the views, I've set this up before, so that's why they're showing up here, but they don't automatically go over from other areas. Oh, I guess they do. Oh, that might have updated since the last time. Oh, that's cool. Okay. As of the last time I checked this out, oh, this is awesome. It didn't used to do that. So personal, save that. All right. So now when we come back over here, now it's back again. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, that was going to be one thing that I was like, yeah, this would be good if it weren't that way. And then now it's, oh, weird. Maybe this is a cache issue. And yeah, okay. Or maybe, there we go. Yeah, that YouTube is just hanging out because the cache hadn't updated its little brain yet. So let's do that and then save this as YouTube again. The issue that you just saw was me setting this up, doing a walkthrough, and then trying to clear it all out so it could start fresh. And then you're seeing that the cache was still holding something that I thought I had deleted. So I'm leaving this in here just so you can see that, oh, Jonathan has to figure stuff out sometimes. And then you would be able to see it for yourself too. But, oh man, this is just so cool that they filter over. And then, yeah, if you wanted to just see personal stuff on your calendar or YouTube stuff on your calendar, you can do that here, which is super handy. Now, when we are recording this video, well, how about we want to keep track of how much time it takes? Well, that's why you start time tracking. And then it's time tracking, you get a little notification there, but then down here in the lower right-hand corner, tracking, record this video. So this is going to help you keep track of how much time you're spending on a task, and then you can keep track of how long you're spending on this client. Maybe it's taking more time than you thought it was, and maybe you need to get more efficient in this process, whatever. But this will be your saving grace as you're doing that. So we're going to leave that going for a little bit. And actually, you know what? No, we're going to click over and then right click, stop time tracking. Then Pomodoro timer built in right here. But check this out. You can choose which task you're going to work on and then start your timer there. And I think it automatically tracks the time that you're working on. Yeah, tracking, record this video. Boom, pretty cool. But maybe you don't want it front and center. Maybe you want it over here in the sidebar down at the bottom. Now you can keep track of your Pomodoro timer out of the way, but visible the whole time. And also, what if you want your agenda visible, but out of the way? Now you've got your agenda down here and you can see what you've got to work on today. Because if you click that, it opens up the daily note, which is awesome. And then you've got your tasks all built out here, which is fantastic. So you can create a demo note Number 5, enter. Stuff goes here, and you're working on it, all that jazz, great. And then come down here, see that blue indicator tells you that it's time tracking, and then you can stop time tracking, or we'll just come down here and stop the Pomodoro timer, and it will do that. So then we can go back to statistics, refresh. We've got 2 tasks from 1 active project, and you can see that this week, 2 minutes tracked. Yeah, this is just really, really neat. I love it. So yeah, this is fantastic. This is what I'm going to be using from now onwards. And I got a couple more details to share with you from the main camera. So let's get over there. And there you go. Like, there's even more. Like, if you use Morgan, which I've done a video about that, you can connect it that way. That's a little advanced, and I'm not actually even using it for that. But if you were looking for something to replace the projects plugin that has been depreciated, well, here you go. The tasks plugin, I'm not using that anymore. The reminder plugin, not using that anymore. So this is replacing all of that kind of stuff. And if you are wondering how to use Morgan and what it is, then I'll see you in that video next.